we talk about the mortgage business, anything technical I say is going to change tomorrow. Although you may or may not have heard that there's been, obviously a lot of adaptation happening in the market. So down payment assistance has gone away for now. Most lenders, most investors are putting overlays on top of FHA requirements and VA requirements, so the minimum FICO score has effectively gone up, but above the government's minimal acceptable standard.
So it's a little harder now to get a mortgage?
It's harder for people with less subprime credit to get mortgage. But, interestingly, some of the people who are probably best qualified these days to have most likely to have the smoothest mortgage transactions are people on pensions. Guaranteed income. And maybe a fixed income, but it's has some sense of guarantee to it, right?
Exactly.
Right, because everybody else has to demonstrate that they're not suddenly unemployed, or not going to be suddenly unemployed.
Exactly. Huh.
Kind of flips things on its head a little bit.
What other news should people know about real estate if we're in the market or we're thinking about it?
I get asked lots of questions. Well, interestingly enough, so 2 weeks ago, right? I actually got when the Fed reduced their overnight fund rate to 0%. I actually did, literally got questions from people. Can I get a 0% mortgage? And so, I had say most of Americans, most of us I'm pretty clueless about what the Fed really does, because I happen to work for ADP, the big payroll company. I kind of had an idea that, the rate that the Fed sets is what banks charge banks. The government says every bank has to have a certain amount of money in the bank deposited at the close of business each day. And Kara, if you're a bank and I'm a bank, you don't have quite enough money to get if you're $10 million short of having your minimum amount, you will call me up and say, hey, Joel, can I borrow 10 million from you for tonight? I'll pay you back tomorrow. And I'll say, sure. Well, 0% is the rate that is now attached to that kind of transaction. Whereas mortgages are attached to a whole different set of financial instruments. And even the kind of rule of thumb that when stocks go down, when the stock market goes down, mortgage rates will go down, because people who were investing in stocks will now invest in mortgage securities. And that's not, it's even more complex than that now because of this whole thing. But basically, investors are trying to figure out what their exposure is and how they can minimize that. The other question, I get is well, do I think that rates are going to fall? Well, they haven't gone up dramatically. They're bouncing around.
Right.
Most recently today, I saw rates that were anywhere between 3.75 and 4.75. That's with very little encumbrance in terms of buying discount, paying for a discount point rate. A couple of days ago, it was different, and a couple of days from now, it'll be different. But it's not jumping. There's not a steady march that's taking it up and up and up and up. Some people ask me if I think housing prices are going to go down. I'm not the person to be asking that, because I'm just not that smart about all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't. My sense of logic tells me that we'll see probably first the rate of increase in prices go down, and maybe here in the valley, when we get to hot weather, we may see more houses going on the market. If everything kind of stabilizes. Right now, people are just doing nothing. Although I'll tell you, I did an open house just last weekend. We did a virtual open house. We did, Facebook Live. And every time we went to start filming,
Uh-huh.
and I was the cameraman for the realtor, which I do for my realtor partners. Every time we started filming, somebody came up, and so we had to stop 5 times. And we had 5 people,
Oh
$1
my gosh.
home, $1 million home in Scottsdale. So the kind of market where serious people looking at houses like that tend to have some cash reserves and not maybe not as many employment problems because of COVID. So there's still activity going on. Now the same realtor told me that just in the last couple of days she's continued to have that house open and absolutely nobody's going. But of course our restrictions have changed in the last few days, and as the governor told us last night, that's going to change every few days.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Everything is going to change. And then anything, we talk about the mortgage market, it's going to change. Is it going to change dramatically? No, this stuff is, every couple of days, the company I'm with, Loan Simple, the CEO sends out some update of what's happening, or what Jenny May has done, what the government's doing, how they're relaxing certain policies. But you think about it, all we hear about here, like from the governor and the town hall meeting last night, people saying, well, can I, what am I going to do? I can't pay rent. Well, I just had a tenant drop a check off here to pay their rent. And of course, then there's that second thing. If my renter doesn't pay their rent, how am I going to pay my mortgage? Which, of course, for people who own their own homes and have mortgages on them, that's the question they ask too. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay the mortgage on my rental property? Well, you know what? If there are programs in place to get forbearance from your lender. So at the bottom of your statement, it says the company you write the checks to when you make your mortgage payment. You can call them up, and the government's giving them some extended guidelines on how they're supposed to handle that. So let's just say you're my renter. I give you a pass. Not a pass. I say you can pay this month's rent later, and then I go to my mortgage servicer and I say, can I pay my mortgage for this month later? And they say, okay. So now that mortgage lender, guess what? They still have somebody they have to pay.
Exactly.
Right? And so eventually, we can't keep kicking the can down the road. So, which is why, investors are like, oh, because eventually the investors are thinking like, I'm not gonna get paid. I'm not gonna get paid anything.
Right.
So the government's still figuring out how to take care of that upstream portion. And unfortunately, I think most people think only in terms of the consumer and think that, well, businesses will always survive. But if 25% of the people who had mortgages said, I can't pay for the next 180 days, that's like $60 billion of payments somebody else has to pay. I'm Joel Shuflin, a loan officer with Loan Simple. Loan Simple is unique among lending companies in that every loan that we do has a purpose, not just the purpose of helping you get into your home or refinance your home, but we support 7 charities that are focused on building the community, not only locally here in Arizona and throughout the country, but also around the world, and to help the environment. And we also contribute to Homes for Heroes, which gives homes to disabled veterans.